Okay, sports fans, here we are, 400 metres for Athletics Championship. 400 metres is pretty easy, similar to the other sprints. It sits within the sprints. We're just going to pause it there. So it sits within the other sprints. There's three sprints in there. There's 100, 200, and 400. We've already covered the 1 and 200, which you can find on the channel. Just have a little search through. And you should be able to find it. 400, slightly different. It is longer. It's harder to probably be more consistent over this one versus the other sprints. Obviously, with the 100, you are literally just doing a start and the long hold and release. 200, then yes, you do have a couple of click and goes that you need to get on perfects. But with 400, there's a bit more to it. There's more of the. It's essentially like the 200 meters, adding in some additional bits. She's got it twice in essence. If we go back, again, the whole thing of all of these sprints, perfect starts. If you want to get a PB, if you want to do well, you really need a perfect start. So we can see here. I'm just going to go through. Set. And then it should be go there. Where are we going back to? We're getting ourselves back to there. Okay. One of the things, again, as I've said this on the 100 and 200, try and use background stuff to try and give you an indication of when it's about to go. To obviously go. So you can get a perfect start. Things have changed. It's now harder to do that piece. The adverts in the background that are scrolling from right to left on all of them, whether it's the triangular one just behind the cameraman or the one directly in front in the middle of the screen. They are changing. There's less consistency of being able to use that as the indicator as to when it's going to go. So similar to what I said in the others, there is a way you sort of have to find your own rhythm. I find that counting to 3 is probably my best way of getting perfect starts. It's worth noting as well, 100, 200, 400, the time between on your mark, set, go on the 100 versus the 400 is quite different. The 100 is quite quick as it goes through. 400 obviously slower. 200 in between. So let's just play this through. We get the perfect start, which is good. We run the bend. And we have a staggered bend here. So you can see here, we want to be trying to get, let's go back a tiny bit. We really want to try to get as close to the middle of this dark green piece here. So again, if we just go through, it's not a bad go that's a pretty good perfect as we go through. The hard bit is consistently doing that through the whole 400 meters. And this is why you can run a perfect 400 meters and have a different time to another time you do a perfect 400 meters. Because it's all about getting as close to the middle of these dark green areas as possible. So we do the first bit. Yep. If we've got a perfect start, perfect one of them. If we can be perfect on a couple of things, we are not a million miles away from sort of saying, unless you really muck it up after that you're going to win it. So obviously we get to the first, so going down the back straight, so we get the hold and release one. I always think, let's look at this. I think that's a harsh good. We are not a million miles away there. And this is what you notice in the 400. I often see that the back straight is harder to get a perfect than it is on the front straight a lot of the time, because it is literally wanting you to get that really properly perfect. Because you look there, that is on an 800, on a 1500, or any of the other events, that would be a perfect. So we've probably been hard done by there. So as we go through, I'm just scrolling us through so I can slow down as I get there. So that's a really good example of how it's what I would call a bad perfect. We're right at the beginning of it. Borderline going to be good versus perfect. Now, because we hit perfect, it does give us that additional boost. But we really need to be getting that closer to the middle. So if I ran this again and managed to get the perfect in the middle, we would run a slightly quicker time. As we go through, as you can see, you run it well, you should pretty much be in the lead. It's very rare that you would ever have the computer be close. Again, another bad perfect on right at the end this time. And sometimes if you know you've been early and you've still got a perfect, you psychologically, your mind makes you go a tiny bit later. And so many times you'll be early and then the next one you'll be late. It's very hard to control your mind to be able to, stay focused and be able to go through. But that's right on the edge of that one. It's enough to keep us in the lead as we go through. We're about level actually there. Now, I've started this one in a pretty good place. The longer Holden ones, to get it spot on, it is very hard. And the reason why it's hard, if I just go back, depending on your lane draw, will depend on how easy it is. So technically, if you were in lane 4s to 8, doing these holds are a lot easier because your visibility is a lot better. When you're in the inside lanes, 1, 2, and 3, 3's not too bad. 1 and 2, you've got to use a tiny bit of guessing work. You've got to anticipate when you will be in there, not necessarily seeing when you'll be in there. But if you can do that anticipation, that obviously gives you a much better score if you can get the timing right. But you can see here, look, we go through, we hit the perfect. This is actually a very tight 400 metres. And there I was saying you would get the win, and here I think we're getting second place. Just look at the two people. Now, we actually probably want to be sort of dipping for the line roughly about now. So it looks like we're slightly behind on the dip. The computer will dip in probably half a step. They often dip early, so if you're ahead of the computer, it's not always a good thing. Let's go back. This is where they didn't even dip this time, the computer. Yep, see, no real dip from the computer. There's a tiny bit of a dip, but no real dip in there. So that's a bit of a rare one that we lost to the computer after having what was a pretty good run, to be fair. We had the good on the back straight. We had a couple of the perfects that weren't great. There were bad goods, which has obviously hampered us. But look at the time, 45.261 versus my PB, which is 45.210. So we are, that is a very good run to be a 0.05 of your PB on a run like 400 meters. It's a great achievement. The other bits, I don't think I've covered these in the other video, so I will just cover them now. Where you have the national record. So the national record is called NL, and the world record is called WL. Why it's an L, I haven't actually looked into, but I think from personal opinion, I think it should be NR and WR. That's what it is when you go, if you go to the athletics yourself. So you can see there that the national record, obviously I've associated to the United States. I know some people will always question why the United States. Simple fact of when I first downloaded the game, it just wouldn't let me pick the United Kingdom. So I ended up going with what it was already pre-selected, which is the United States. Does that have a massive impact? It does to a degree. It determines, your teams for Nations Cup, etc. We will cover that in future videos around Nations Cup. We'll do an overall sort of things to know around your account and all of that. We can break down a few things. We can show you some of the rules and stuff when you become part of the club. But the nationality you select, that is obviously the people you're against for the NL. Now, someone might think, I know, I'll pick an obscure country. Let's just go with Chad. Don't know why. It's the first one that came in my head. But you might decide, right, I'm going to pick an obscure country. If you're just starting up and you've been watching the videos. There's a warning I will say about that, which is you'll get your national records very easily. It's not going to be hard. You know, I think there's some countries that probably have 0 active players in, so you will get those national records. However, when you get to some of the events like Nations Cups and all of that, it is advisable to be in one of the bigger countries, which is normally UK, US, France, Germany, Spain, Australia. There's some of these countries which have some really strong active players in. Some of the OG people who were there at the beginning and are still playing now, they're in those teams and still doing well. So careful on who you pick for your country. Don't go obscure and don't go, in my personal opinion. We can obviously see what the world record is. World records have been coming down over a period of time. Lots of people are starting to level up more and more. So it's, you know, this is one where the world record, national record, not a million miles away. That's probably, was that 0.3? Might be a gold item that needs upgrading for whoever the person is with the national record. I can show you how to find those as well when we do our sort of video around sort of getting to know Athletics Championship. So that's the 400 meters, as you can see. Let's just follow it through so it goes to the end. You know, it's going through. We tap the screen makes it go through a little bit quicker. We can see here that if I just go back a tiny bit, there you go. What we can see is, you know, we've got 4 stars. We were the quickest person from a PB point of view. So therefore, that means we got 4 because we didn't win. And we didn't beat the person with who technically has the best time for a 400 because it would have been us. So interesting to see. That's the 400 meters. As I said, it's a pretty simple event. But we'll be moving on. We'll be moving on to the 800 meters and 15 as we start to look at that sort of middle distance running category that Athletics Championships has. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe and enjoy playing Athletics Championship.